Hello, curling fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Broom Brothers, the official podcast of the curling group and the Grand Slam of Curling. The Grand Slam of Curling season is in the books. Ross Whyte will join us later to talk about his players' victory, but before we get there, my man, my broom brother in arms, who is looking like he got in a little bit of a dust up.
Yeah, things get real at the Steinbach Legion. Let me tell you.
It's Robbie Doherty.
Sorry, I can't laugh. It hurts.
Sorry, yes. Robbie, if you're watching this on video, which of course all of our episodes are available on YouTube, there you go. Good look at it there. Robbie had some minor surgery yesterday right on his eyebrow. So if he's looking a little bit more stoic than the kind of friendly, outgoing Robbie you're used to, he's not mad at me or mad at you. He just really can't move his eyebrow.
Yeah, it hurts. And just for the record, I would like to publicly state that I was not scrapping at the Steinbach Legion.
Yeah,
in fact, I didn't see a Legion in Steinbach. Normally, I would try to pop my head and just say hello, but no.
Yeah, I don't think I saw a Legion there either. I mean, I didn't see much, to be honest with you.
No,
our hotel was pretty close to the rink, so I was mostly going between the hotel and the rink and the like 3 restaurants that were in between those 2 places.
Well, I had no reason to leave the restaurant the hotel with the jacuzzi suite at the Roadhouse.
True,
52.
yes, yeah. You had a very interesting hotel experience in Steinbach.
It was luxurious, I must say. Little soak every night after the night draw just to take the frost out, but no, it was great. The Roadhouse was fantastic. We had a great time. A lot of us staying there, and it was great. Family-run business, it felt like, and they do anything to make you happy. They had Mr. Noodles for sale at the front desk as well, which I might have got a few packs. So sodium levels are a little high, but other than that, what a great week, though, in all seriousness, in Steinbach.
Yeah, great week in Steinbach. I wanted to talk to you about that because we found out in the last couple of days here that it was the second highest selling Grand Slam ever. After St. John's last year, which everyone knows that one's going to be tough to beat because that's a 7,000 seat building and it was sold out for a lot of the draws. But Steinbach, I believe the capacity was somewhere around 3,000. I think it's got 2,500 seats. And then we have the Jackpot City Lounge and some standing room in addition to that. So, yeah. So, I mean, it was pretty much sold out all throughout the weekend, if not fully sold out. We had no tickets left for Friday night. We had standing room only for a lot of the playoffs. It really felt like the community showed out. Brand new arena there at the Southeast Event Center. Robbie, give me your thoughts. I mean, you've been to way more Grand Slams than I have. I'd imagine that's got to rank near the top.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not just saying that either. And yes, you're right. The tickets were sold, and I'm sure the ticket revenue is fantastic, all that stuff. But it's not just that people bought tickets. It's that people came and people really took part in the event. They felt it really gave the atmosphere in the arena just that little extra bump that sometimes we don't see. And every time you'd go to a restaurant, every time you go to a store, people would see the lanyard, they'd see the logo on your jacket, whatever it may be. They would ask. They knew that curling was in town. They knew it was something special. And it really came through during the games, in my opinion. Like, it wasn't a silent crowd. It wasn't, my husband got tickets through work, I guess I'll go. People wanted to be there. People knew who the athletes were on the ice. They knew these teams. It was every time you came to work, it was a lot of fun. So big hats off to Steinbach, everybody involved. World class.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the organizing committee was super good. It was their first kind of major event there. So the Steinbach Pistons, a junior A hockey team, play out of there. But this was the first time they had done something other than hockey, kind of a major event there. And the staff was great. We found out very quickly that we were going to need way more seats and way more food for in-between draws. And they opened up their like multi-purpose room there, found a way to make more food for everybody in between games. Like, it was really cool. Very cool community. And I think one thing that's worth mentioning before we get into the on-ice stuff there, a lot of people had said, because we hadn't been in Manitoba for 8 years, and obviously people know of Manitoba as a fantastic curling province and amazing curling community, and people always would say, how come you haven't been to Manitoba? Why aren't you in Manitoba? And it's hard because we kind of need a specific size of venue. It can't be too small, but it also can't be too big. And I think that was one of the major challenges in trying to find somewhere to run a Grand Slam. Plus, you need a community that has hotels that curlers can stay in. And it's not okay, all the curlers got to fly into Winnipeg, but then they have to drive for 6 hours to get to the city or whatever, because that's the reality in Manitoba. A lot of the towns in Manitoba are very spread out. You can't fly into them. And so this kind of feels like, and our CEO, Nick Sulsky, sort of alluded to it at the end of the week, this does kind of feel like this arena, this Southeast Event Center, could sort of become the de facto home of the Grand Slams in Manitoba in the coming years.
Absolutely. And as it should be. I don't think that's a given title that someone was just giving them because they're feeling generous. I just feel like they earned it. Like that slam it felt like a good old fashioned pre-pandemic kind of all systems go slam, and just the crowd, not only with their curling knowledge, but just their general positivity, their excitement to see just something happening, just proud of their town, their neighbors joining in the celebration, all week in their seats. They were loud. It was just one of those feel-good moments. As I said, you looked forward to going to the rink every day.
Yeah, it was a great time. So yeah, I think, definitely on the table for future slams, maybe on the table for Rock League. Who knows? But it's, I think a place that we will be visiting again in the not too distant future. Okay, let's get to the on ice action. We'll start with the women's side of the draw, where it really was the Silvana Tirinzoni show. This is their third players title in a row. It was their sixth Grand Slam final in a row. They took down Kerri Einarson in the final. We're going to get to Kerri in a minute. Let's focus on Silvana first. Robbie, your thoughts on their play? They're the first team to ever win the players 3 times in a row. It's really, they were just dialed in all week. They got that bye to the semifinals. They rode it to the finals, and full value for the win.
Yeah, and I think that they, they're number 2 in the world, and I think they showed why they're in that top 2, top 3 kind of area. They were, every time they touched the ice, they were very dialed in. They did take a loss in the round robin, I believe, to Kerri. Yeah.
Kerri had to win that game to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and then bounced back. I think they were playing Gim in the semis, and it didn't look great early on. But again, they showed
3-2.
Right, and they showed that, that I know it's 3-2, but still, that's anytime you're down in curling at this level.
And Gim had the hammer. Sorry, they were down 3-2 in the 5th end, and Gim had the hammer.
Exactly. And like, that is not an easy mountain to overcome, especially against a team like Gim. I'm really going to try to bring my face down, if that's okay.
Yeah.
No, but that's not an easy obstacle to get around. A team like Gim, you're down 1 without the hammer. They showed how resilient they were after bouncing back from that loss against Einarson. They showed how resilient they were to come back in that semifinal. They showed up to the final. They were ready to go from the start. I know it went down to that last shot, but for me, at least, I had that draw off and I got to watch the whole thing. It just felt like Tirinzoni had control for the finals. They were there to send a message, if you will, that look how good we are, look how ready we are for next month. And I think they did that. And I think going back to our chat last episode when we recapped Saskatoon, and I had mentioned that it was an event that they had to win. Do you know what I mean? Like it meant a lot. Like going into the Olympics at number 2, they had an opportunity and they pounced on it. But for this one, it was sort of a follow-up. This was their chance, in my opinion, to really send a message that wasn't a fluke. We're not scared of anybody, including Rachel Homan. And the Olympics are next month. Look how friggin' good we're playing. Everybody better be careful.
Yeah, no question. I think for sure. You talk about back-to-back slam wins going in, and on the other side of the ledger, Rachel Homan, and we talk about her a lot on this podcast. I think a lot of people are sort of thinking that's the gold medal game at the Olympics, certainly based on the world standings. It is, Rachel Homan 170 points ahead of Team Gim in 3rd. Silvana Tirinzoni 140 points ahead of Team Gim in 3rd. The last 2 slams since the Canadian Olympic trials, Homan doesn't make the final after making 8 in a row, and Silvana wins both. So I think it really sets up the Olympics well, because I think, if you had asked people back in October, they would have said, well, Rachel's just going to, show up to the Olympics and win. And now it kind of feels like if we get those 2 teams in an Olympic gold medal final, that could be a game for the ages, which I think is what we want, right? We want 2 rivals at the peak of their powers facing off for that Olympic gold medal. So that's going to be very exciting. And we should briefly mention, this kind of came up and it wasn't really something that was talked about. And I kind of heard this was sort of a last minute thing down at ice level, sort of the indication that I received what happened. So our own Devin Haru, of course, handling the post-game interviews for Sportsnet, was interviewing Silvana Tirinzoni and kind of mentioned that this might be her last slam. And I was told that Devin was told that like right before the interview. So Silvana has kind of kept this close to her chest, didn't necessarily get it out there. But perhaps this is sort of a retirement announcement for Silvana. I mean, we're going to have a bunch of those near the end of the year, and we'll go over all of them then. Not saying she's confirmed that she's retired, but what did you make of that kind of being a part of the championship celebration there?
Well, I think it made for a special moment, first of all. Doing what Devin does now for the past 2 seasons, the inside joke with all of us is more so on the women's side, because that's usually the two teams we'd see, or excuse me, the two teams we'd usually see are Tirinzoni and Holman, or at least one of them in every final. And the joke is always, what am I going to ask them? What questions am I going to ask?
Yeah,
so I bet you Devin was really happy to get that tidbit going out.
I can ask something different this time.
Yeah. And I'm John, let's not lie. I'm sure you've heard rumblings of this coming all season, not as have I. So it was no surprise. And in my opinion, if it is true, and I'm not trying to spread rumors or try and put, ideas into anyone's head, but if it is true, what a way to call it a career. Kevin Martin is still my favorite retirement of all time. Wins the Players, sayonara, goes off into the sunset. For someone like Silvana, Silvana's a pretty quiet person. She's not, you don't see her a lot on social media. You don't see her a lot in interviews. Alina does a lot of that stuff, but she's a very kind of naturally, I don't want to say shy, but a quieter person. She keeps to herself more, but she's just a really lovely, nice, talented person. But the thing I will always say about Silvana as well is she loves curling as much as anybody on planet Earth. Her life revolves around the sport. She talks about it nonstop. You can just tell it's what she thinks about nonstop. And it's no, surprise that translates into the success that she's had on the ice. And I think for a player like that, who's been, top of the food chain for most of her career, at least in the Grand Slams, what a way to end it. You win a slam, not just a slam, the Players, you're third in a row, you go out on top. And that's what I took from it. I ran into her that night. We went out for dinner after, and I just said, Silvana, that was a hell of an interview. And she said, I know I didn't. She said something along the lines of, I didn't mean for it to be that kind of forward or direct. But I think that's the message that people took away from that. And it was pretty cool to see. I don't want to say I was cutting onions, but it hit me in the feels for sure.
Well, and good too with the crowd there too, right? Like you get a chance to go out in front of a huge crowd. They were very appreciative of her career when that was announced. She kind of got to have that sort of farewell moment, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, if that is the last slam for Silvana, it certainly has been a pleasure watching her in the slams over the years. No question about that. Okay, let's move over to the other side of the sheet in the final. Kerri Einarson, sort of not necessarily a hometown slam for her. Gimli's about an hour and 40 minutes away from Steinbach, but certainly a home province slam for her. She was absolutely the crowd favorite all week. Got huge cheers, was probably a huge part of the reason why the women's final was sold out or close to sold out. Same with Friday night, because she had that must-win game against Team Tirinzoni on Friday to make the playoffs. Just a little thought here on Kerri's week.
Yeah, I thought they were resilient. Got the start to the week they wanted, and kind of kept their head above water, started playing better and better. And to me, and this might be wrong, but it looked like at least the classic case of truly feeding off that crowd, similar to Black at the trials. But you could tell it really meant a lot to her and meant a lot to the team as the week went on. And just they were just that little bit louder, a little bit more excitement every time they'd make a big shot. And Kerri Einarson, I find herself just as a person, to me, has always been one of those people that she's just always been cool. She's just lived in the moment, doesn't overthink much, doesn't underthink much, but just truly, I don't want to say doesn't take herself seriously, because that's not what I'm trying to say. She's an incredible athlete and she puts the work in and all that. I mean it more, she's just laid back, but not laid back, if that makes sense. She doesn't have that ego that you see perhaps in some other Canadian curlers. And it's just, she's always been just a pleasure to watch, a pleasure to chat to, someone you just love to cheer for. And I just think going forward that, looking back, you can tell she was truly embracing the moment, being in her home province. She truly appreciated those people who were cheering her on, more so than perhaps we're used to seeing. Her family was there. She had a big cheering section. Seeing her with her twins after that was pretty special as well. So big hats off to Kerri and team. I'm not sure what the future holds for that team, but it was fun to see them have one great week if it was their last season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question, right? I think with everything they've been through the last couple of years, I think that was cool to see, not only to do it in front of your home crowd, but just to get that run to the finals. Hadn't made the finals in a slam since the first slam of last year, so it's been 8 slams since then, and they get the chance to make the final. And yeah, I think a lot of us are expecting that this will be the last year for this team, at least in this iteration. Could I see some combination of those 4 players continuing on next year? I think that I could. But yeah, I think a lot of us are feeling like, just with all the turmoil that team's gone through the last couple of years, 8 years is a long time, right? That's how long Kerri's been with Val and Shannon. So that's a long time anyway. You could just see a natural expiry date because of that. But then you add on all of the stress of the Brianne Harris situation and everything over the last couple of years. And it was just cool to see them get that sort of, I don't know if swan song is the right word, but to just have that moment. And obviously you're disappointed to lose the final, and I'm sure that's part of the takeaway as soon as it ends. But I think when Kerri and her whole team looks back on this week, that will be the takeaway for them, was just like, hey, we got to have this last moment in front of our friends and family, in front of our fans, and it was a really cool and special thing. So kudos to them. Great week for Kerri. It felt like the curling gods were on her side a little bit. Had her best game of the week on Friday night when she needed it against the defending champs. And then got a little lucky in the quarterfinal. Isabella Vrano looked like she had a made shot on her last one for the win. It picked in the last 4 feet, and Bella missed by an inch. So yeah, it was really fun. It was just fun to watch this week. And speaking of Isabella Vrano, we know now that she will be the Swedish rep at World Women's. It hasn't been officially announced by Swedish Curling yet, but you can do the math. We talked about it on the last BB's episode that she just had to make it further than Anna Hasselborg. She did that, and it kind of came down to her game against Anna Hasselborg, where it went to a shootout. Bella covered the pin in the shootout. Talk about a pressure draw. That 1 point that they got ahead of Anna in that shootout was kind of the difference between Anna making the playoffs and Bella making the playoffs. And so, yeah, for the first time since 2017, it won't be Anna Hasselborg representing Sweden at the Olympics. Just a very, very quick thought on that, Robbie.
Well, a couple quick thoughts. And for me, the big thing that jumps out is that head-to-head game that they played. Both teams had chances to win it. I forget Isabella's first shot, but she had a pretty, I don't want to say simple, but a makeable shot to kind of seal the deal. It was Hasselborg with hammer. Missed it. Left Hasselborg, I think, full 4-foot for the deuce and the win.
Yep.
Missed it. Sent it to a shootout. And then the draw to the button came down, and it was what it was. So that's just, in the words of Devin Haru, drama right there. Yeah. And so it was fun to watch, but you could see the excitement, I think, in Isabella's voice. She still had a round robin game to play that meant a lot. And I talked to her just kind of off the record after that. And I asked her, how does that feel? And it's funny, she kind of acknowledged it. She said, yeah, it felt good, but obviously, we're here to win the players sort of thing. And she was pretending like she wasn't, addressing it, or it wasn't quite happy. But you could kind of just see the little little smirk, like
Right.
she was excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just makes sense as well. Like if you're a country like Sweden and you have two defined top teams and one is locked in for the Olympics, you have an up and coming team that is younger. I don't think it's a bad thing to send one to the Olympics and one to the Worlds.
I agree.
It's if there's one thing they can feel good about, it's not going to make the team worse, no matter how they do. It's going to make them better.
Yeah.
And I just think a team like that, they can make the shots. They know the game. They can play with anybody. And the only thing that might be missing from that resume is just experience. So why not fill that anyway? And, and I also don't want to sound like Swedish curling is giving them that chance. They earned it. So huge props. Just a fun team to watch. And you know what? Don't ever count them out at the Worlds either.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have a great chance there. And I mean, the Worlds might be a little different this year. As we know, Rachel Homan won't be there for Canada. Silvana Tirinzoni will have an opportunity to win Switzerland. However, they're going to have to do it the day after the Olympics. So they will be going. I mean, now for Switzerland, Cortina is driving distance. It's like a 4-hour drive. So it's not quite the same as an overseas team that would have to fly home and then immediately play. But still, you go through the grind of the Olympics and all the emotions and everything. And then the day after the Olympics, Tirinzoni has to play in the Swiss Nationals. So with Ksenia Schwaller in that field and Corey Herleman in that field, you might see a different Swiss rep too. So could be fun to see all the young teams. And also Japan is still up for grabs. There's a really tight points race there. That's brewing between the Japanese teams. Now, their team doesn't get settled until the end of January, and there's a couple events coming up. There's one this weekend in Perth. There's another one towards the end of January in Sweden called the Sun City Cup, which a lot of the top teams are going to be in. It will almost look like a slam field. It's got a really strong strength of field, so there's going to be a ton of points there. But right now, Momoha Tabata is in the lead in Japan, so we might also see a young Japanese team at the Women's World. So that's shaping up to be an interesting field, and we'll keep an eye on how all of that goes over the next few weeks. Okay, let's get over to the men's side of the sheet. Maybe we'll talk about both teams at the same time, because kind of feels like an interesting, if you said before the players we have an all Scottish final, I think you could have gotten pretty good odds on saying that final would be Ross Whyte and Kyle Waddell, who went undefeated into the finals, by the way, did Kyle. Ross Whyte ultimately wins his second Grand Slam title. But Robbie, talk to me about both of those Scottish teams in the final there, Ross Whyte, Kyle Waddell.
Well, we saw Kyle Waddell kind of really come onto the scene consistently this season. And they just are one of those teams that kind of flew under the radar at the start, but got better with every event. Angus Bryce is a great second. Matt at third is very good. Or excuse me, Mark Watt at third.
Mark Watt. It's hard to know. You see the double T's. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, Blair at lead. Like there's a lot of horsepower on that team. They're all big. They're all strong. And they're good curlers, but you can tell they're just getting better every time, if that makes sense. So did I picture them going undefeated before the finals? No. But if you had asked me, say at the start of this season, if I'd be shocked if we saw them in a final in the next 2 years, I would say no.
Yeah, I would agree.
Perhaps a little bit earlier than I thought.
Yeah.
But they made everything. And they're a team that, especially in the round robin, A, they don't give up. But B, they're also very hard to come back on. They're very strong, because I think their week started in the round robin. I think they won, I believe, and this could be wrong, but I think they stole in the 8th to go to a draw to the button against Retornez.
Yeah, they did.
And then won the draw to the button.
They did.
Right. So in the 7th end of game 1, it's looking like doomsday. And all of a sudden you go undefeated and find yourself in the final. But you know what? They played well. They made smart calls. They were close on everything. They didn't have any real big buffoons. And even in the final, John, they didn't play that bad. Chelsea and I discussed that a little bit. And it's not like they played bad. They were just, and I know Brent Lang will punch me in hopefully the other eye if he sees me next time for saying this, but they were truly on the wrong side of the inch. They were just so close on everything, and they would roll somewhere, like the only spot you just couldn't roll, like 6 inches one way or the other. it's a lot better situation for them. And it was just one of those games. And then you have that game against a team like White. There's not much you can do. And boy, oh boy, they looked like Team White.
Yeah, I think with Kyle, it's really been, we knew that those three guys had a lot of opportunity and a lot of strength in this game, I guess, for lack of a better word. They had some good runs last year with James Craik. Those three, they were in a few of the slams, the tier 1 slams last year. And, they pick up Kyle. They thought it was going to be a 5-person team. There was a little bit of a jumble with Duncan McFadden being injured and Craig Waddell needing to come in and play for Ross Whyte. But yeah, I mean, I just agree with you on all of that. I think really for me, it comes down to Kyle. I mean, I think we knew those other three were good, and James is a good player too, make no mistake, but Kyle's just a little further along in his career than James. He's had a little bit more experience than James has, and you can see it. And I pardon me, I'm kind of on the committee that decides shot of the week, and we're entering shots all week long. As we're kind of watching games, we put shots into the document. And I think Kyle Waddell has had multiple shot of the week contenders every slam they've been in this year. Like every event, he is making sick shots to get his team out of trouble or into big scores. And I think when you combine the ability of the other three guys, who are all young guys finding their way in the sport, yeah, the sky's the limit for those guys. As you said, maybe happening a little earlier than we thought, but they were great. And Ross Whyte, again, they're a team that Johnny Brazo, our intrepid reporter on the Grand Slam of Curling website, kind of imagined what would happen if the cup was still around. How it used to be. Yep. You would get a certain number of points for every slam result, and then whoever had the most points at the end of the season got a monetary bonus. And then a couple of years ago they canceled that because they just said, let's put all the money back into the slams. Let's not necessarily concentrate it at the top. If someone fluke makes a slam final or whatever, they should get paid more money. So that doesn't exist anymore. But Johnny Brazo imagined, what if it did still exist, and he did all the points and Ross Whyte was at the top. So I think if you thought at the end of this season, who had the best slam year, you'd think of maybe Bruce Mouat or Matt Dunstone, who made a few finals and won one. But no, it was Ross Whyte, the most consistent team on the slam circuit this year. They had made a couple finals and lost earlier in the season. Nice to see them get that Players' Championship. And we don't have to go too much longer on Ross Whyte, because we're going to hear from the man himself coming up in just a few minutes here. But maybe a last point on the men's side of the draw before we get into that interview with Ross, and that is, we talked about the Hearing Life Canadian Open. For the first time ever, no men's teams in the semifinals, and added another strike to that record at the Crown Royal Players' Championship. No Canadian teams in the playoffs. Matt Dunstone, Mike McEwen, and Brad Jacobs all falling short. For Dunstone and McEwen, there you can sort of understand that a little bit. They're kind of playing out the string after the Olympic trials. Kind of the focus is on the Brier now and re-peaking for that. But Brad Jacobs, that's our representative in Italy. That's 2 events in a row. I mean, they made the quarterfinals in Saskatoon, but 2 events in a row where, maybe they didn't have the performance they were hoping for. Are you nervous about Team Jacobs at all going into the Olympics, Robbie?
No, I'm not. Not at all. Nope. I think we talked about it. There's no point on beating a dead horse here, but because we already discussed this in full. But in my opinion, and feel free to disagree, the Canadian system, I'm not trying to shit on the system or say it's wrong or anything, but in my opinion, the teams that don't win are heartbroken for a month, obviously. But the teams that do win have so much to go through right after. They have that week of media. They're making travel plans. They're getting ready for the Olympics. On top of that, Christmas was less than a month, 3 weeks after the trials, a slam right before, a slam right after. I think I flew out to come to the slam on January 3rd.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, it's just, they're coming down. It's fatigue. Would it be nice for them to be a little bit sharper? Sure. But we've seen how that team can play. And with those 4 names, that experience, that talent, straight up talent, there's no doubt in my mind that they are going to be playing as best as they possibly can in Italy in February. That's my answer.
No, and that's fair. And I would add to that too. I think this Grand Slam format works really well for some teams and not really well for some others. And I think Jacobs is one of the teams that it doesn't necessarily work for. And that's not to say they shouldn't be able to adapt, because I think in some ways you should be able to adapt your strategy to the rules changing. But I think, if you watch them play in 10-end games where you can blank a few ends, like they're such a good hitting team. They like to play a little bit more of a defensive style. And with the one blank rule at the Grand Slams and with 8 ends where it's a little bit harder to kind of get an early lead and just be a front runner, I think it just doesn't suit their team as well either. And I think we've seen that this year, right? They didn't make a slam final all year. We've had the one blank rule since the second slam of the year in Nisku. So yeah, I think they're also a team where the rules are maybe not exactly designed for them. And I think it's on the teams to adapt, but also if your whole goal is to peak for the Olympics and for the trials and for the Brier, where there is 10 ends and you can blank as many of them as you want and whatever, stay prepared for that, be ready and be your best for those events. So I think that's a factor too, but yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on as we head into the Olympics. And speaking of the Brier, just a very quick shout out to Sandy McEwen defeating world number 8 John Epping in the Northern Ontario Brier Playdowns. Everything I've ever heard from Northern Ontario curlers is how good Sandy McEwen is. Doesn't really play outside of Northern Ontario, one of those Canadian teams that they all still kind of have day jobs and they're not willing to become pro curlers, or try to become pro curlers, but they have a ton of ability and they finally break through in Northern Ontario. So hat tip to Sandy McEwen. Congratulations on the big win over John Epping. All right, without any further ado, it is time to get to the Ross Whyte interview. Before we do, a reminder that this podcast is brought to you by Goldline Curling, the choice of champions. Robbie and I are both kitted out. I've got the Goldline Pride sweater on. Robbie wearing the official Olympic sweater. Milano Cortina is coming up. If you're a Canadian curling fan, Goldline is the official supplier of their uniforms, and you can buy them. You can buy the Team Canada jacket at goldlinecurling.com if you don't want to wear a curling jacket out in public, or you don't want to be the guy that wears a Canada jacket to your Tuesday night men's league. That's fine. They've got the beautiful hoodie that Robbie's wearing. They've got sweaters, t-shirts. That logo is beautiful. I don't know about you, Robbie, but I've worn that hoodie around quite a bit, and I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. And I've gotten a lot of questions, too, from people who are like, what is that? That's such a cool Canada logo. What is that? I assume it's similar for you.
Yeah, that's literally exactly what I was going to say. It's not just that I've got comments. I've got a lot of questions and what it means and who designed it. And so that says a lot. Congratulations to Goldline and the team behind that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful design. And of course, they have all of your curling equipment needs as well. Brooms, shoes, gloves, pants, you name it. Anything for on ice, they have it. So head on over to goldlinecurling.com, the choice of champions. And hey, we got a champion coming on the pod now. Ross Whyte, just one day after he got home from Steinbach, he joined me from his home in Edinburgh. And this is right before they headed off to the Perth Masters. So Ross had basically one day at home by himself to recuperate. And he chose to spend some time with me and us here on the Broom Brothers. So we appreciate that. It was a great chat. I know you're going to like it. Without any further ado, let's get to my chat with Ross Whyte. All right. I am pleased to be joined by the newly minted 2026 Players Champion, the champion of the players. Ross Whyte is here. Ross, have you been going around and telling people you are the champion of the players?
Not particularly. I mean, not if that anyone would really care in Scotland if I told them. I think it's a pretty niche thing in Scotland to tell people in curling, I guess. But in the supermarkets, might not be too bothered, to be honest.
I think you should. I think you should tell the cashiers at the local, Waitrose, tell them that, hey, I'm the champion of the players. Do they have those in Scotland? I know that's a British one.
Yeah, Waitrose, they do. I don't shop there. It's
okay. Tesco.
Tesco sounds good. I like that place. That's a top 3 all day long.
Okay, we'll get you into a Tesco and we'll tell them you're the champion of the players. Now, Ross, we start every episode or every interview with the top 4. These are 4 questions I'm going to ask you, and you're just going to give me the first answer that pops into your head, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. If you know that you're on a long flight and the whole flight is curlers and you have to sit in the middle seat, who do you want to sit between? And you can't pick your own teammates.
Oh, well, trying to pick a couple of people that aren't going to be too annoying.
That's kind of the goal, I think. Yeah.
Hammy McMillan's out. So I'd take a couple of Scottish boys, maybe Kyle and Grant. Let's go with them too.
Okay. I like those guys. What is your favorite curling club that's not your home club?
Favorite curling club would either be Aberdeen is a good one, and I liked Penticton when I went there.
Beautiful city and great curling club, I will say as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good spot. Who is the driver on your team and why?
Robin is our driver. He loves driving, and we all are not fussed about driving. So he grabs the keys and we let him run.
Now, would you rather win mixed doubles Olympic gold or world championships in 4s?
Oh, that's tough. That's really tough. I would probably go. See, Olympics has the name. That's the big problem here, John.
They do have the brand recognition for sure.
People know about that. I would go. I think you got to go Olympic gold, don't you? I think I would go Olympic gold.
All right. I love that. Now, I don't know the answer to this question, so I felt like I would ask it. It's a very basic question, but I've known you for a while now, and I actually don't know the answer to this, which is just how did you start curling? How did you get into it?
So curling, so there's a school program in Scotland that they bring kids along to different ice rinks, go and try it. It's called a try curling. And then, so my brother and sister got into that, and I was just sitting at the side. I was 6 years old, just watching away. Just don't know what I was doing, just kind of kicking about. And then and my sister said to one of the coaches, she was like, "You should get Ross on." And they were like, 6 years old, I'm not sure. So I came on with a cue.
Like a pool cue?
No. You know the sticks.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. We call it a stick. Yeah. Got you. Yeah.
Lost in translation. And I went on, tried it out, obviously loved it. And I just kind of started from there.
And now you're way better than your brother and your sister ever were. Do they feel bad about that?
I'm not going to make a comment. They're going to listen to this.
All right. I won't get you in trouble with them.
Yeah, please don't.
But that's cool. So your parents weren't into it. Because in Canada, obviously, that's the most common origin story. But I'm the same as you. I got into it through school. My parents didn't get into it at all. So for you, it was just an organic thing, or your brother and sister were doing it.
Yeah, exactly. My family had nothing to do with curling until it's the same in Scotland. Most families are kind of based around parents or grandparents that have curled, but for us it was my sister and brother, and then the whole family got into it from there.
So your parents like it? Because my parents, I'm not even sure my parents ever liked it.
I think they like it. Yes, they absolutely love it. They love watching. Mum plays quite a bit now in Dumfries. Dad not so much. But yeah, Naomi and Rory actually try and play the English mixed doubles because they both live there.
Yes.
But they've lost the final the last couple of years, so it's a bit of a touchy subject.
Fair. Well, yeah, right, because you could play for England, right? If you want, you could curl for England in theory.
I could, yeah. I was born there, so I've not tried it yet, but selections need to start going my way.
I was going to say, you might have to. We might have to see. I mean, I think as a guy who lives in the Commonwealth, I can get a British passport, and I've definitely never represented Canada. So, you know, you call me when you're ready.
me and you were flying. Like
we are flying. Okay, so we'll jump ahead. You guys won the Players this weekend. I wasn't in the building. I was watching it on TV, but you guys, huge celebration. Looked like it meant as much to you as your first slam win. What is it about you guys and the slams? Like, why do the slams mean so much to you?
Well, when you're growing up, they're the pinnacle. They're the tour events you're desperate to get to. It was crazy. I was actually thinking about it on the way home, that like the amount of people that you play against, like your E.G. Harndens, your Brad Jacobs, that you watch when you're growing up, and then all of a sudden you're in the same ice rink, you're playing against them, and then it's pretty surreal, to be honest. And then sometimes you beat them, which is nice. But like these sort of people, they're the ones that have kind of created that whole like massive aura around the sport, and to win an event that they're in is pretty special. So that's the kind of the reasoning why they mean so much to you, because they see these teams winning it and think, well, I'd love to one day, but I don't know if I ever will. But yeah, I mean, you said the first one, it meant so much, and then the second one, I don't think I'm ever going to get tired if we ever win another one of celebrating.
Well, yeah, you're not like the most outgoing guy on the ice, generally speaking. So I do personally love when you win. It's just like, oh, Ross is feeling something inside of there.
Yeah, I don't give much away. I have a huge issue if the job's not done until you win. Like, I can't get excited until the job's finished, the last stone's thrown, and then I let it out. And then I think it's just built up so much there. It's just like, okay, this needs to come out, and I don't know what's coming. I don't know what celebration I'm doing this time.
So it's sort of like 6 days of buildup, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can allow myself some joy. Because in theory, those 6 days have been going well for you to make it to the final. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I won. I can react in a way.
Yeah, no, totally. It's pretty surreal. It just takes over your body, really. I don't know. It's really not pre-planned. Yeah, you're stressed for 6 days on the road. You're not sleeping very well towards the end of the week, and then all of a sudden you just get to let it all out. It's quite the feeling, but I would like it more often.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I would like it more often for you too. I mean, let's dial in on that celebration. This one, you know, it was a little more just sort of arms down at the side. Come on, but the first one, you know, how do you feel watching it back? Because I believe your celebration looked something like you said, "Come on," and then you just like hit the head of your own broom. So, you know, is there something we need to work on here, or were you happy with how that came out?
I'm not convinced it was very normal.
It wasn't really normal. No,
I don't know what the brush head had done to me at that point, but tell you what, it looks quite a cool video from what I see. But I mean, to anyone else, they might think I'm an absolute lunatic. It was pretty odd, but it worked. I was enjoying myself. I got the emotion out, and I think people like to see the emotion because I don't show it very often, as you said.
No, I agree. I loved it. I was at ice level, actually. I wasn't on the call in Guelph, so I was watching the game at ice level, and about halfway down, it kind of seemed like you were going to make it. So I was watching you because I was kind of like, is Ross gonna go nuts here? Like, what's gonna happen? And then I watched it, and I could feel it. I mean, I think everybody likes a genuine display of emotion. I just also know that you are very hard on yourself, and your team is also very hard on each other as far as like, you know, busting each other's balls and that kind of thing. So I didn't know if there had been like a moment where you went back and you went, oh man, maybe I should have done something a little different than that.
No, I don't think so. I think that was just raw emotion. I just needed to hit that brush at that point. that was clearly what was going through my mind. But no, I don't think I would change it. I definitely did something different this time, but as you say, it was a slightly different circumstance.
No, I mean, I love it. I love it. And I do sense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do sense overall you are sort of coming out of your shell a bit, because I'll be honest, I started working for the Grand Slams last year. I'd never met you before. The first couple slams, I thought you hated me. I thought this Ross Whyte guy, he doesn't like me. He doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know why I'm around. And this guy hates me. And I think I learned, like, you're just kind of a quiet guy, but it does seem like you are starting to come out of your shell a little bit in interviews. I think the All-Star game, people really got to see a different side of your personality. Is that something you're even thinking about? Like, what do you owe that to? Or do you feel like you're coming out of your shell a little bit more?
Probably. I'm becoming more relaxed around the environment. And I don't think I'm on purposely trying to do that, but I know I believe I've got a decent personality. So I'm trying to show it a wee bit more. But when on the ice, I'm kind of pretty straight faced and look like I'm having a terrible time, no matter if I'm winning or losing. So trying to make it look like I enjoy curling a little bit more. But yeah, no, it's definitely something that I'd like to bring out more and let people kind of get to know me rather than just who I am on the ice.
Yeah, I agree, because let's get this. Did you hate me?
No. Well, I didn't know you thought I hated you, but I tell you what, it's not a great impression to give off for people to meet you for the first time.
It wasn't your fault. It was just it was 100% my own insecurity. So you don't have to worry about it. But I do think you're right, though, in that I watched you on TV for a number of years, or a few years, before I got into working for the Slams. And yeah, you are very stoic on the ice. And as you said, maybe even more so then than you are now. And so I had kind of had this idea of what you were like. And then I got to do a feature with you guys in Newfoundland. We had a lunch and we got to know each other a little better. And I thought, I agree with you. I was like, this Ross guy does have a great personality. I love this guy. And so, yeah, I think it's cool that you are thinking about trying to show that off a little bit more. Is that something that you have to be conscious of, or is it just, as you say, you're getting a little more comfortable and it's just happening naturally?
I think it's probably just being more comfortable. Yeah, to be honest, I'm not overly thinking about it, but it's nice when it comes out a bit more and people get to see who I am, to be honest.
So when you're so stoic on the ice, like, what's going through your mind? Why are you so just flat? Not flat's the wrong word, but your expression. Most of the time when you're curling, you could make a great shot, you could miss a shot, you could be beating a team 6-0, losing 6-0. Your face looks the same the whole time. What's going on in your brain?
Oh, I don't want to tell you too much. Anyone wants to know it all. There's not too much going on. I'm just, when I was growing up, I was pretty animated. I hated losing, hated missing, was pretty angry when I missed. So over the years, I've kind of tried to bring myself to be kind of flat, and whether I'm winning or losing. So it seems to be working, which is good.
Yeah, you're winning a lot.
Well, that, and if I'm losing, you might not know I'm losing. So that's also a good thing. But I am trying to be a little bit less straight-faced, let's say that, and stoic, as you keep mentioning.
I think stoic is a nice word. I think that's a proper word. Do you not like that word, stoic?
I can say what it means, but it sounds, I can take a guess from what my impression on the ice is.
I'll send you the dictionary definition of stoic after we're done this interview.
If you put that picture on my face, I'm not going to be happy.
Is that when you talk about, being more animated and maybe that includes banging brooms or getting frustrated or whatever, is that something that you worked on with a sports psych, or is that just something you felt like you had to do in order to up your game and you just kind of worked on it?
It was a little bit just team coaches over the years kind of trying to bring me back to that kind of level-headed, don't show too much emotion. As soon as you do that, it kind of puts off to your team as well that you're frustrated, and it doesn't really give a great impression. And it's all about trying to lead the team as well as be a good teammate. So that's what I've tried to do, to then bring more to the team rather than just shot making. So that's what I'm trying to do. It seems to work sometimes.
Okay, well, I do want to talk about the team, because this year I think we saw something that was a little bit unique in terms of how things went with your team and your team construction. Obviously, Duncan McFadgen, your longtime second, had a knee injury. It was determined back at the start of the year he was going to miss a significant amount of time, which has turned out to be almost the entire season at this point. And then British Curling gives you Craig Waddell, who was supposed to be part of a 5-person team with his brother, who you just played in the players' final. I'll say this, in Canada, that would have been a big story in Canada, because you would have had to like kick someone off your team. You would have, like, we went through, Shannon Burchard went through that with Kerri Einarson last year, and it was this big story. Oh, who's going to fill in for her? What's going on in the team? But seemed like for you guys, it was just kind of a seamless fit. Like you know, it didn't seem to affect your performance at all. Obviously, you win a slam with Craig at second. What allows that to happen for you guys, that, you know, you're bringing in a brand new player, but it didn't seem to really affect your ability or your cohesiveness as a team really at all?
Well, luckily for us, there's lots of good curlers in Scotland, and we'd already worked with Craig a couple of times with injuries from the last couple of seasons. Ewan 2 years ago couldn't make the players, so Craig came with us, and then last season, Dunk with the same injury couldn't make a slam, so Craig came with us, and those two, we made a quarters and a semis, so we felt like it would be a nice fit. We knew Craig's personality. We're all pretty good friends. We've been on holidays before and things like that. So we knew Craig would work really well in the team. So that was one thing that kind of made it a lot easier. We knew that he would work well. To make it so little of a story, we were kind of told, let's just not make a big thing of this, because the more it comes mainstream and everyone's kind of talking about it, the more it brings pressure onto all parties involved, really, with the decisions being made. So we tried to just kind of keep it low key. There was, I mean, our first couple of competitions as a new 4 with Craig in it weren't great, to be honest. We had to have quite a few discussions around the team dynamics and things, and just trying to kind of be better. And then we got it really right at the first slam, which was great, which was a real good peaking point, because that's when we needed to start to pick up our season, making the final there. And then we're like, right, this is going to work, and we're going to make it really, really successful. And we feel like we've done a really good job of that. It's been a tough year, to be honest, but losing 2 slam finals was feeling a bit hard done by. And then you go on to win the players, which is the pinnacle of the slam. So it's been tough, but all parties involved have been really good at just integrating Craig, and he's been brilliant. And you can see how good of a curler he is. He's getting the all-star stats, which is amazing. That was a nice one to see yesterday, and he's put in a lot of hard work, so he really deserves that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great player. And I think when we have similar situations in Canada, again, it's often a great player that is filling in. No question about that. But I wanted to ask, because I think in some ways in Canada, you know, we're very protective almost of our teams. It's sort of like, this is our group. We don't want to let someone else in. We don't want to give them our sort of state secrets, for lack of a better word. And it does seem to me anyway, that a team in Canada who would be going through a similar thing, the integration wouldn't be as smooth. So I was curious, do you think just like the British curling program in general also plays a role in that? Because you're all kind of training in a certain way, and you're all kind of working towards throwing the rock the same way. Like, do you think that helped also? Was that a factor?
Very much so. There's a kind of a theory in place with how we're throwing the stone. Not that we all look the same slide, but the fundamentals being the exact same. So that definitely helped integrate him in. We knew through a good stone, he made loads of shots for his team before. So that was a big one. And I think we're also competitive. So no matter who goes in what team, that team wants to win. And that's what we'll do to try and win. It doesn't matter whether we're giving out secrets to Craig or if it was a short-term thing. Obviously, it's ended up being a long-term thing, which is he's fitting in great. But if it was secrets, that's fine. As long as we're winning at that moment, that's great.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Speaking of Duncan, what's the update there? Because I've kind of gotten little things over the years from talking to you guys and other players on tour who know him. What's going on? Because I think, as you mentioned, we all kind of thought it was going to be more of a short-term thing. Now we're already in January. We're through the slam season. There's not a whole lot of curling left. Is he coming back this year? What's the update there?
His plan's definitely to be back this year. He's really started picking up rehab. He's doing 2 sessions in the gym a day now, which is great to see. That was something he couldn't do for quite a while, but he's really picking up rehab now, and he's trying to get back on ice in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So it's great to see. He's desperate to get back on the ice. It's been a tough old time for him, because we thought maybe November would be when he was kind of getting closer to being back on ice, at least training. But it's been really tough for him. But we can see from where we're sat that he's trying his best to try and get back on the ice, and he's wanting to be part of the team as much as he can. So he's doing a great job of that. But we're just hoping it kind of starts to fall into place for him, and he starts to get some really good news, and he can feel like he can get back on ice and throwing again.
Love it. Well, I hope he's back soon for sure. I miss seeing him around, and as you said, a crucial part of your team as well. And I want to talk about another one of your teammates, you and Kyle, one of the real characters on tour. I feel like people maybe don't know him as well, but to me, he's got a little bit of Scottish Ben Hebert vibes to him. He's kind of like a lead with a big personality. He's also a big guy, and I feel like the Broom Brothers listeners have to see this footage. And I know what I'm going to play here, but a lot of people may not know this. But to me, this is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in curling. So Ross, maybe you can set the stage for us. You were the alternate for this team, but this is the 2017 World Junior Championships. Ewan is playing second. You're in, I believe it's the semifinal against Korea. And yeah, maybe just set the scene for us before we play the video here. So yeah,
you've nailed it so far. So he's playing second. He's having a great game. Unfortunately, we're losing at this point to Korea, who end up winning the competition. And he's getting a little bit hyped up. He's getting a little bit excited. He's seen the screen, and his stats look pretty good. So although we're losing the game, and we're pretty confident, I think it was the last end, we're pretty confident we're going to lose.
I think you're losing by like 4 at this point, or 5, something like that.
Maybe should have shook at that point then. But he's a character, and you'll see it in this video. He doesn't show it too often, because he talks quick. He's Scottish, very Scottish.
Yeah.
And he doesn't always give out his huge personality, because he doesn't want to talk slower. So he does have a huge personality, and you'll see it in this video. It just sums him up to a T.
Right. Okay. So yeah, Stephen, you can start playing the video, and Ross and I will narrate a little bit here. So what's happening here, as you said, Ross, game's out of reach. Cameron Bryce, the skip, initially calls a corner guard, then says, actually, I want to play this harder shot. Then Ewan will get to the hack and see on the scoreboard that he is throwing 100% and will ask for the corner guard so he can have a 100% game. And, well, here, I'll just play it.
100% for you and Kyle.
Just a corner guard.
Yep.
That'll do it.
Did you just see it?
I think he did.
Up on the monitor in the arena. All right, come on, you and Kyle. Just one corner guard. And you've played a perfect game at the World Juniors.
It's all there.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Let's see.
That's flying. Sit.
It can't be.
Just here.
Let's see where this one ends up.
Just here, Ewan. Out the road.
It's in the house.
Sit.
Oh,
Sit.
no.
You wanted it top 12, didn't you? No.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
I was 100%.
Uh,
So there's the history of you and Kyle not being able, I guess, throwing 97% in a World Junior semi.
Still not bad playing second. Now he's playing lead, but I think you'll take that throw back in a heartbeat. It's the pure shock on his face that he knows. Oh,
As soon as he let it go.
that's not good. But
I also love when he yells down the ice, "You called for a top 12, didn't you?"
Yeah, ironically, that's what he does for a living now. He just throws those corner guards and throws around them perfectly. So, I mean, he's learned. It's a good thing.
Ewan, you are one of a kind. All right, we're almost done here, but I do want to talk about, I guess, sort of like the lingering question that a lot of fans wonder about, which is, you for the last 4 years have been one of the best teams in the world, but the second best team in Scotland. And that has resulted in Bruce Mouat getting selected for basically everything. And I guess, obviously, I know that that's disappointing. You don't need to tell me that. But I think what I was most curious about, is it discouraging for you? Because I think that's what I see a lot of comments from fans and stuff where they would say, geez, like, is Ross Whyte just going to quit? Like, this is real. He's won 2 Scottish championships, doesn't get to go to the Worlds. I think there are maybe weaker minded people who would quit in that scenario, but is it discouraging for you? Like, is that hard, every year coming up so close, but not getting to wear the Scotland jersey?
Yes, it's really hard. I mean, we understand the situation. We know what we've got ourselves into with the selection, and Team Mouat being pretty good at curling. So we know that they're a tough one to get by, but it is pretty discouraging. I mean, you win the national championships the last 2 years in a row, and last year we knew we weren't going to the World Championships because Team Mouat had a very good year. I mean, they'd won 4 slams at that point. We'd also won 1, but we knew we weren't going to get selected last year, so it wasn't so discouraging. We knew where we sat with that one, but like years before, we knew we were kind of close. It was kind of 50-50. We won the national title, and then it didn't go your way, and it is really tough. It's the World Championships. You want to put Scotland on your back. You want to go up there and try and compete and try and win a world medal, and you have to sit there for a while and kind of process it. And luckily for us, I mean, you've only got a couple of competitions left after that from when selection happens. So we kind of get through those couple of competitions, and then it's the summer and you just enjoy yourself there. So it gives you a bit of time just to relax and then get back into the next season. But yeah, I see all the comments. I appreciate all the support, but it is tough. And that's just the sport that we're in, and we know that's the situation we're in. So we have to take it in the chin, and you move on, and you just try and hope you get yourself a chance at some other point. So
you're not quitting. This isn't going to make you quit.
Are you? No, I'm not quitting.
Good.
Not yet. I'll keep you updated year to day.
Yeah, please keep me posted. No, I think it's great. I just think, in Canada we're so conditioned that whoever wins the nationals goes to Worlds, and that's the way it's always been. And so I think, especially with how good your team is, you're not a fluke winner, right? I mean, you're beating Bruce, and he's number 1 in the world, and you're number 4 or number 5. Like, you're right there. And so, yeah, I think as Canadians, we try to figure out, we try to make sense of that. And I can only imagine it's hard for you. I guess the natural follow-up question to that is, where do you see your team going in the next quad? Like, let's say Bruce's team stays together, your team stays together. Like, what do you think? Because you're so close. Like, what do you think is maybe the last kind of 1 or 2 things your team is missing that hasn't been able to sort of push you past Bruce yet?
Well, ultimately, you need to try and get by them in the rankings.
Oh, very well said, Ross. Yes.
Yeah, good start. But number 1, it's pretty hard to get higher than number 1. So we're going to have to try and get there ourselves. But it's good. There's there's 5 criteria points in which we get selected, and one of those is international experience. So we're hoping for a selection this year, and potentially might be able to get that experience there, but it's really difficult when they've had so much of it in the last 4 years. So we're hoping for an opportunity there, but ultimately we're going to have to try and win more slams than them, win more competitions, and then go from there. If we don't, we know which situation we're in. We don't hate the selections. We think that they're reasonably fair. We understand why it's done. We know that UK Sport want the best team in what they think are to go to those championships, try and win the medals. So we understand it, and we want to be funded by UK Sport and British Curling. So we've signed up for it all, but realistically, we just need to try and get ahead of them, and it's tough. It's really tough to do. But
yeah, I mean, I think I was targeting it more like, what is your team going to do? I mean, I don't know if I needed like a rules explainer. I get why you haven't been selected. Like, let's get a little deeper here, Ross. Like, what does the team need to do to find that edge, find that little bit more?
Well, if I knew that, John, I'd have told you, and I'd have done it by now, and we'd be number 1 in the world. We're trying to find things out. We feel like we've found something in the kind of later half of the season with how we're throwing the stone, and seems to have worked the last slam and in this slam. So that seems to be working. Kind of keep following on with that, but I mean, we work really hard, so continue that. Keep working with the right people, psychologists, nutritionists, and hopefully it really pays off, and we win all these competitions and make lots of money, and well, that'd be nice.
That would be nice. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I think there's just, I would say over the last couple of years, it's something that all of the curling world has paid attention to. It's been a really fascinating battle. Both your teams are so great, and obviously Kyle's team emerging this year. It's been really fun to watch. And so I think there's a lot of people, you're making a lot of fans, and I think they would love to see you at the Worlds this year. Hopefully that works out for you guys. And yeah, I mean, just keep it up. All right, we're here at the I call this the dirty laundry segment of the podcast. This is where I kind of dig up some things about you that, maybe the casual curling fan wouldn't know, and maybe you wouldn't expect to be asked about. And I got to start with this one. This is more for the Scottish listeners, I would say, than it is necessarily for anyone else. But for those of you who don't, those people who don't know, most of the Scottish curlers in football cheer for Rangers or Celtic, which is, that's pretty normal. Those are the two things. But you cheer for Arsenal. So is it hard being the Scottish curling guy that cheers for Arsenal? Like, they just must beat you up about that all the time.
They're not too bad. I mean, we win quite a lot. Maybe not trophies. I'm going to get clipped for that. We never win trophies, but we're trying. We're top of the league. So I don't know. I think it's quite refreshing being out of the Scottish football situation. They're all chirping each other all the time about it all. And I mean, they give me a bit of grief, but Grant also supports he supports the opposite team to Arsenal in Tottenham, so I've always got that over him because they are useless.
They certainly are. Yeah, things have been pretty bad for Tottenham for a while now. So that is good. At least you have that. And you're right. I just the other day I told Craig, because Ewan was wearing a Celtic jersey, and I was always a Celtic guy just from Canada, and then also one of Canada's best players plays center back for Celtic, Alistair Johnston. So I'm kind of like really a Celtic guy. And then Craig told me that we're not friends anymore. So it is probably good for me and just for everybody else to be able to stay out of that.
Oh, totally. You don't want to be in Glasgow on an Old Firm day. That's chaos. I mean, I think what Craig said to you was actually being very polite. I think you take the we're not friends anymore and you move on and you go, that could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Okay, thank you, Craig, for being really nice to me actually about that. Final question. I heard a rumor that you have a favorite Canadian curler that might be maybe like a little unorthodox or a little bit different, maybe a surprising answer to this question? Can you explain that to me?
I guess. Me and Matt are good friends. We met a long time ago, but we took a wee trip to the cat cafe.
No, I'm not talking about the cat cafe, Ross. I'm talking about a guy that you thought was a curler but was not.
Oh, no way. Oh, no way. Who told you this story?
I can't say.
Oh, come on now. That's well, when I was growing up, I didn't watch much curling. And as we found out in this podcast, my family weren't into curling. So I was sitting watching, or not really watching, but I was talking to Grant about the Briar, and he was asking me, who do you think will win it? And I was sitting there. I thought I'd be clever. I'd give him a name. And I said, I think Tim Horton might win it this year. That's pretty tough. That's I've not lived that one down. I get told that at least 3 or 4 times a season. My curling knowledge is pretty much as good as that. Apart from I try and curl good, but ask me any history in the curling, I can't give you much apart from Tim Horton was at a lot of Briars, but I don't know if he ever won it.
So you thought the Tim Hortons Briar was named that because he was such a good curler?
I'd love to tell you what I thought, John. I don't have a clue what I was thinking, but he was in it. He was the name. I don't know if Briar himself won a lot as well, or just
Oh man, as soon as I heard that, I said, I gotta ask Ross about that on the pod. That's really something special. We'll forgive you for it, Ross. Don't worry. Your recent history in curling is more than good enough to make up for the fact that you thought an NHL player who died 50 years ago was a great Canadian curler.
I'm sure he had a great career in curling as well.
Thanks so much.
I searched that up to see if he actually curled, and I got not very good results. So.
I think he was a little busy playing hockey and making donuts, I suppose, as well. Oh man, Ross, this was a blast. Thanks so much for doing it, and fingers crossed that we'll see you at the Worlds later this year.
Thanks very much, John.
So there you have it. What a chat with Ross Whyte. Who knew that Tim Horton was a championship level curler? I didn't know that, but it was nice to learn. I mentioned off the top, Ross, very compressed schedule, literally had 1 day at home, agreed to do this interview with us. So we really do appreciate that, Ross. Great guy. And yeah, I loved that interview. He's just such a funny guy. I feel like a lot of people don't know that from seeing him on TV, as we discussed in that interview. Maybe a bit of a stoic character, but yeah, hopefully that the fans listening to the show say, you know what? I like that Ross Whyte guy. Funny dude, because I like him a lot, and I knew that you would too. So thanks again to Ross. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to Goldline Curling for sponsoring this episode. Again, you can head on over to goldlinecurling.com for all your curling needs. As we mentioned last episode, Olympic previews are coming up. Robbie and I are going to preview every single team that you will see at the Olympics coming up in just a few weeks from now. We can't wait for the Olympics. I know you can't either. So we're going to have a bunch of special episodes coming up over the next few weeks. So don't miss out on that. Subscribe to the podcast feed. You'll get a notification every time we post an episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe there. Same thing. You can follow us on any social media platform. Just search the Broom Brothers. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you back here very soon. Goodbye.